president for the last time because I'm out in June. So public comment from anyone. New directors. We have a few retiring directors I know amongst us. So congratulations. Any new directors? Yeah. You want to make them stand up? No. You want to stand up? Okay. I need a motion, please, to approve the March quarterly meeting minutes. It was Ann. A second? Roger, thank you. Any discussion, changes? All in favor? Aye. I have to abstain. I wasn't there. Next thing is board election results. I'd like to congratulate Ann Kozak, Jim Dieters, and Stacy Whitman as our continuing and new board member. I also want to thank the other two candidates who ran. I appreciate it, and I always encourage everyone to please run for it. It's good. Other than that, Aaron, it's your show.
All right. Yeah, mic's on. How's that sound, everybody? Pretty good? Well, hi. I saw a lot of you not that long ago. So what I'm going to cover today is just some of a recap of maybe what you saw at the committee, the whole meeting. We broadcast and recorded that meeting as well. So bear with me if you're seeing me repeat this. I won't spend too much time on it, but what I'll do is I'll also go through and tell you a little bit more progress we made with some cleanup that was happening with items. So it's been 50 days since our go live. And we're going to have SWAN staff go over some of the other new stuff that is part of our whole package with CERC Dynex. So get ready to see some very interesting things. So the migration as far as our approach getting through Symphony and getting us up on Enterprise and getting us up on eResource Central, that wasn't just where it ends. I touched on this, of course. This was how many patrons that we had to migrate and how we updated those with the national change of address. So there was formatting of data, formatting of phone. The zip code was done with a +4. I don't know, where were we at? It's staff here with the P.O. box fix. Did we fix that, Rebecca? Yeah, that was fixed. Okay, it's fixed for Beecher. Is Beecher here? No.
The addresses are not technically incorrect, but Beecher requested that the street addresses also be included.
According to the post office, they don't care about some information that we record in the address. So when we ran the database through this national change of address, they took some things away that are helpful for staff to see on the patron record, but as far as mailing things through the mail, that we're correcting, so less than 1%. So when we say accurate, we're talking about accuracy in terms of the data that came out of Millennium and how it went into the system. That said, we have been going through and also doing additional cleanup of items to make sure that they reflect that they are in the proper collection, so that if it was something that should be a DVD, it should be reflected as a DVD. So we've done a lot of work with that already. Close to 94,000 items have been worked on. This was starting in May. We're using a tool internally called Item Group Editor. Those of you who ever work with like the Horizon system, Item Group Editor is a very powerful tool that got brought over when the CERC CERC company and Dynex company merged. They started adding functionality to Symphony, and that was one of the things that was brought in. We're still exploring Item Group Editor as a tool maybe for our cataloging libraries in SWAN to also be able to use to help with manipulation of item records. So it's more for modifying like item categories, maybe some of how the item was cataloged, we'll just say incorrectly. There are some workarounds I think that library staff had used in Millennium that don't really work or is needed. And we also had a memo that went out this week about item records. And I'm gonna touch on some classes that we have coming up and some user group meetings coming up. That's all gonna kind of fit into how Symphony works and how to make sure that we have a system that's working well and displaying well for the patrons. 83,000 holds came out of the Millennium system and were loaded. A lot of item level holds became title level. We apologize for that, but that's just noting what happened. I think there was some suspicion from staff or some thoughts that maybe the suspended frozen holds did not come over. They did all come over, but they were active when they arrived. And there were some holds that were noted that did not migrate, but we have not had an avalanche of tickets noting that. We did have some holds craziness, as I'm referring to it, back on April 14th and 15th, and we attempted to fix that up. I'm brushing my mic, sorry. So I would say at this point to say that there aren't holds issues is not accurate. We still seem to be finding things and tweaking them and learning more about the system as far as with holds. But the majority of the holds, as far as the migration is concerned, all those came out and went in, and it was a huge help from our library staff in resolving those issues. Photos and signatures, we had a huge number of these, a lot more than I had ever expected that were in our Millennium system that came out. Those were pretty much all extracted and accounted for. There were a number that were missing, and we reloaded those. The good news is that we had 10 new libraries that opted in to use these features, and this was based on the training that they had received prior up to the go live. They liked the sound of it. They thought that the cost of the camera, which was around a $25 webcam, was great. They liked the process for adding those in. We were also able to, within the Cersei Dynex agreement, preserve that we would have all the Topaz hardware that is used for the signature. That was all preserved and retained. We are working on some the acceptance for the signatures. I think we have some language options that we're trying to work out. I think we have some things, workarounds maybe that we have. None that work yet? Well, IT's still working on it. And I'll touch on a timeline here where you'll see where there may be fixes coming later for our Symphony 3.5. As far as our indexes, and I'm just gonna, I have this listed as an enterprise slide. We did have some outages with enterprise on 20th and 30th. May 30th recently, we did have an outage, I want to say it was a Saturday that lasted 15 minutes. What was interesting about that was that we were alerted to the situation by Cersei Dynex, who was monitoring. They said, we found enterprise to be unresponsive, we've taken corrective action, and they had it back up within that 15-minute window. So I don't even know if we had a ticket come in from library staff noting that it had been a problem. Maybe there was one. So the good news is that they are monitoring round the clock a lot of the what is called the hosted or software as a service solutions, which enterprise is one of them. So we did have some downtime, but they were monitoring, caught it, and corrected it, and it was up really, really fast. So within the 50 days, right now we're winnowing down that the amount of uptime has been 99% and the downtime is 1%. We'll continue to monitor this because I want to make sure that our stability of our system is highlighted for you all and that it's understood. We did have some enterprise iPad issues that were noted early with our go live. One was the logon links. We worked and fixed those. The other was on an iPad, there was a login pop-up that we needed to come up with a way to fix that. And the way we figured it out is you need to put a graphic and then a link to that says forgot my PIN on that window, and it works great. So we think those were nice things to have anyway on the login window. So they're there. You probably may not have noticed, but they're there, and that it allows it when it comes up on the iPad, the login stays up, and when you touch the keyboard, it comes up. iPad users are nodding that we fixed that. Okay. Enterprise is not coded specifically to be like 100% compatible with iPads. That's not to give an excuse. It's just the reality. iOS users, which is iPad or iPhone users, they do represent a significant number of our sessions when we're monitoring this through Google Analytics. So it's around 8% of all traffic is coming in through there. Android is around 4%, and poor Linux is down below 1%. It's probably just me at home. I wanted to note that we had 40 vendors representing 45 services that transitioned as part of the migration. So while this was not necessarily like part of the data migration, there was this huge list of vendors that we had to have working for everything that you have at your library. So consortia, the complexity of the consortia, just grows and grows over time. It was interesting when I was chatting with the Resource Sharing Alliance Consortia that's based in East Peoria, and we were talking about how our migration compared to theirs, and they're like, well, you had a little bit harder because there were no patron-initiated holds when we did it. So the level of holds and things like that they had to contend with were low. So the data set as far as what they needed to get out and in was more limited. And I'm sure they didn't have 40 vendors to contend with as well. Are there any issues with these vendors, or anyone want to comment about how this went? That was the IT group here. Stephen and Ian worked very hard also with Versatil's help to make sure that all this slid over either before, during, or in that week following. I wanted to note that we have a really nice server setup that throughout the migration and even currently it's running the 3 Millennium servers and the 2 Symphony servers that we have. So we have a server setup that's running virtualized servers within it. I didn't know how to represent it other than just showing everything is here and it's all running in what's called a VMware server environment. The beauty of this setup is that we could run all this simultaneously, and as we look to sunset these, maybe at the end of June, we'll be able to apply additional resources to these servers, but there's not been anything that we've seen thus far that has indicated that they're struggling for resources at all. So the good news is that we can essentially clone this test server and make another Symphony test server over here if we need it. That means that if we're going to do training in certain scenarios, we could do that, or if we're going to experiment with certain types of setup and we want to do that, we can do that. We've always said that we thought it would be great to have maybe 2 test systems. It allows us to experiment, and it allows us to do more training with you all, or allows your staff to do training within that environment without maybe touching the live data. At this point, we've got 85% of the tickets that have been open and closed. The blue line shows how we're closing the tickets compared to the orange line as far as your staff opening them. I want to congratulate everyone. They've been really using the system well. It is truly, I think, what got us through the last 50 days. As you can see, the number of tickets, they rise and spike mostly due to weekends. There really aren't that many tickets that come in. But also, as we were adding new functions, new things such as notifications, making statistical reports, asking for feedback, we'd get a surge of tickets in, and then we would handle those requests and then close them. So we do have a number of tickets open. I know, for instance, I have a number of tickets that are presently open that are related to commerce. So that's kind of why you would see a number of them open, and we try to make sure to review those and update those. And we love closing them, but we want to make sure we close them when we know the problem's resolved. Any questions here? I would like to hear if you or your staff feel like this has been working well as a system. Yeah, good. Yeah.
It has been working well, but I know that one of my staff members still had an unresolved issue regarding CPL patron holds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had
So I don't know if
the question is an unresolved issue regarding CPL patron holds. I'm looking at Kate because we did a lot of work last night and this morning about that issue. Yeah, is the news still good?
The news is excellent. I just sent out a SWAN and a SWAN cert saying that it's a new day. You can patron the non-SWAN reciprocal borrowers.
Come on up. Let me turn it on.
Thank you. I am happy to announce that the non-SWAN reciprocal borrowers, which includes Chicago Public, are now effectively blocked from placing holds in Enterprise. However, staff can place holds very easily for them in workflows with no overrides coming up. They can place.
Yeah, that was, maybe a lot of you aren't aware of how much of an issue that was sort of in the background. We almost, I want to say, when did you make the discovery to how to do this? Yesterday?
I found it about 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And yesterday confirmed.
Yeah, we confirmed yesterday how to. So this is, for the summary of this is that it's functioning a lot more like we had in the Millennium system. We had a method that we had rolled out that I will say you were all troopers and trying to make it work, but it clearly was having problems. Eisenhower's sitting in the front row or sitting in the second row here. You are all smiles because I think we did that, and yeah, Elmwood Park. So that's good news. So,
You know what I didn't mention?
oh, Kate's got more to add.
Yeah. There's always more. We say, yeah, this kind of is what we used to be able to do in Millennium, but in Enterprise, the Chicago patrons and the non-SWAN reciprocal borrowing patrons are able to log into their account. So they can see their checkouts, they can do renewals, and this is all in a SWAN I sent out. They can see their holds, they can suspend their holds. If they're going on vacation, they can unsuspend them. They can cancel them, so they don't have to call you to cancel them. They can also see all their fines. So they have a bit more empowerment with Enterprise than they did with our Webpack in Millennium.
Thank you.
Okay?
So Sarah, your question about the ticket that was open, it's probably going to be closed now. We've had eResource Central integration throughout since the go live, so it really has been stable throughout the last 50 days. I shared at the committee the whole meeting that as patrons are using eResource Central in the enterprise integration, you will see this show up as maybe a new registration within your overdrive stats. So you're going to see a surge sort of in those stats if you're looking at the overdrive statistics. I just thought I would note that. So that Cersei Dynex has noted that's the issue with the overdrive software API talking back to enterprise and then communicating that information back to the overdrive setup. Yeah.
Has Overdrive been told this, or?
Yeah, they're aware of it.
Okay, I was just curious about the communication process when it's a third vendor.
Yeah, what you'll see is a lot of this vendor work that Cersei Dynex is doing. Occasionally, we've seen issues arise where Cersei Dynex will say overdrive. It's an issue with the overdrive API. I don't think it's that they're passing the buck. They just know like they can't get in there and fix it, so they're waiting for overdrive to fix certain things. So Rebecca, I don't know if there's any update on that.
I don't have a specific date, but Overdrive is aware of the issue and working to resolve it.
Okay, overdrive is aware of the issue and they're working to resolve it. I say that for the folks that are at home watching. All right, so what we're going to cover next is we're going to focus on some of this next round of solutions that I promised you that we'd start covering at the June meeting and more at the September meeting. So I'm going to have some of the staff come up that have been working on some of the solutions. They're going to walk you through some of it. Yes, Mary Beth.
Somewhere along the line, are you going to talk about the e-commerce product?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that right next.
All right, good.
I shouldn't laugh.
No.
And then we're going to get towards the end, we'll talk about some classes and user group meetings that we have planned. So what I had outlined for you all was that we're going to start looking at things in June, and then we'll give updates at the quarterly meeting, and then some of the other things that are kind of on the list will be covered at the December meeting. We really wanted to make sure that some of the more popular things we started working on right away. I want to share with you the updated roadmaps that Cersei Dynex has. If you are able, or all of you should be able to log into the Cersei Dynex support site. The link they have on the right side to their roadmap. So if you're ever curious about that, I'll try to make sure to include updates that they have when they're available. This is the March roadmap. They've broken it up into several pieces. So what they're showing here is, and maybe a little hard to read, is they have a 4.5 release coming up in the second quarter of 2015. We've actually been told that that's going to be in July. Fingers crossed that we get that in July. Blue Cloud Pack is not a product that we're using, but BookMine is something you're going to see today, and they have versions noted here that will come out. So some of the more the newer technology they're developing, such as BookMine, eResource Central, these things which are cloud-based, you will see more frequent updates that come out to the system. So we'll have to get used to when we say, like, well, what's 1505 or 1507? What it's doing is it's tying to our calendar, so July 2015. The staff roadmap, when we say that, that's tools that library staff will use as users right now. So we're going to start working on it as well. Universal Admin is a tool that we use to administer all the Blue Cloud products. They've changed the name of it to Blue Cloud Central. Symphony, as noted, is on the 3.5 release, and there will be, looks like they're targeting for third quarter of this year is 3.5.1. So maybe if we have things that aren't quite right with 3.5, such as the language options within the Topaz, maybe that'll get fixed in 3.5.1. Web Services is a tool, is a connector that connects the Symphony system and allows it to talk to a lot of the other Blue Cloud stuff. It's playing a role within commerce and is part of the issues that the ProPay integration is having with commerce. So commerce right now is having sporadic issues where a patron will pay and the payment will be accepted. You'll get the ProPay email saying it was accepted, but it doesn't update their account in Symphony. And they'll see that in the enterprise system, that it didn't. Then they may attempt to pay again. And maybe that second time they're successful, or maybe they're not. And then you're in the unfortunate situation of saying, well, they've had 2 credit card transactions go through. They're asking for a reimbursement for the first one. They come to the desk. Do they want cash? What do you do? First of all, I'm just acknowledging that there's this problem, and I've been really pressuring Cersei Dynex weekly to make sure that we have fixes on the way for this. There was a patch applied to Blue Cloud Commerce, and we have to get used to also that when you have these Blue Cloud products, when they say they patched it, they're not just patching our instance, they're patching it for like every library that's using Blue Cloud. So they'll apply a fix and everybody gets it all at once. So the first week of May, they did apply one. I only got this information this week as far as when they patched it. So it may be worth noting if a lot of the issues that we were encountering up through those first 2 weeks or first 3 weeks, there's less of them. It's possible that there may be less of them now, but I'm not saying that you still wouldn't have them, but there may be less of them. They are promising a major fix to the entire Blue Cloud system in August. So there are some interim patches that they've noted that they can apply to maybe resolve issues that we're encountering. So what I had done is had notified you all that there were these issues. There was updated documentation that showed you if you needed to do a reimbursement to patrons in your ProPay account, how you can do that. So if you had that scenario where they paid twice, both went through, but you can go in and choose the one that you want to refund them for, and it'll go right back to their credit card. The tricky part of that is if you've only taken the initial steps of saying, well, there's only one person that logs in, and it's the director, and I have to do all this work, how do I delegate this? The first document that I had created and then shared with you all showed how you can basically would need to call customer support for ProPay, say you want to enable additional users, and then once that's on, you'll see those options appear in your login, and then you can set up logins for staff, and then you can say, this staff person will only have read-only, this person will be the circulation manager who will be able to do a refund if you give them the authority to do that. Or you could say there's going to be one person here who's going to manage all these on-site at the library. Jane, question?
You know, I did call them about that, and they did seem kind of clueless.
As far as adding users?
Setting up another administrator type, you know, someone who has a lot of, I mean, she literally had to keep putting me on hold to talk to somebody else, so.
I will say, okay, what Jane's question was for those at home was when you contact ProPay support and ask them about setting up additional users, they may have been a little surprised at that request. Were you eventually able to get that users done? Yeah.
Yes, but it took a lot of them. Could you please hold?
I have noted that too, that maybe the frontline support there has to sort of put you on hold and they may not be ready for some of the requests that we're going to them with, but I will say I've been put on hold a couple times, but eventually I get what I want. So yes, I will warn you all, be prepared to have the frontline tech maybe not understand that, but just keep saying, well, you have to add these users in, and I know it can be done, because Aaron told me so. Susan, question?
Yesterday we were working with, on this in the morning, and I didn't actually ask in the afternoon what happened with it, but the person paid a bill in the morning at 9:30, our staff member. She did not get an email notification about the success of this until 1:40 in the afternoon. Is this because of when all the emails are going out? That seems a long time to wait for the email saying that you were successful. Because she chose email notification.
Yeah, when you're doing the payment within that payment window, you can ask to do that. Mm-hmm. I encountered this issue early in the testing phase where it wasn't emailing at all, and when I brought that up, they were able to fix whatever they need to make sure that that is happening. If there's a delay, I think we should just note that the specific instance, if we want to send it to a ticket, either to help or commerce@swanlibraries.net, and we can note what happened and when, and that helps me get issues like that resolved. I don't know why it happens.
Okay.
It is a little odd.
I don't know if we were the only, if this was just our person doing it.
I know.
Okay, so I will send it in, and as I say, we had a long meeting, and she was done by the time I got out of it.
There is the other scenario where you could have maybe a patron is using one of your public kiosks. such as the catalog, and maybe security's locked down on that in such a way that may be in the mix. I don't know if that's been happening, but it's something we've discussed here internally. So it's another thing just to kind of think about, that if it happens at a certain station that you have security running where it's blocked from certain sites or blocked from certain things, that might get in the mix, but it would have to be very specific to the library and the type of software you're running. Ann Kozak.
This is probably farther down the road, but will it be possible for people to make gifts into our PayPal account? Because we had someone who wanted to give us a corporate gift, and they wanted to do it electronically, and I called ProPay, and they just weren't helpful. But it seems like we have these accounts, and we could have like a donate now button, and it could just go right in there.
The question is about gifting. If someone wanted to make a donation to the library, is it possible to do this with ProPay? I'd have to look into this. I know there's the other services that Cersei Dynex has noted as far as their integration as far as with Amazon, being able to do purchasing through Amazon, or patrons, if they can't find something, could they do that? I'll have to see whether or not there's the ability to do a donation to the library directly through. I would say at some point, if we're looking at in the next phase, which is that we're going to look at swipes at the desk, I suppose you could do a manual transaction for the patron if they want to add, donate several $100s to the library. You could do it that way, and the swipe would accept it.
Aaron, we have a question online.
Question online.
Yeah, a library currently has their credit card payments disabled, and they were curious if we would advise them to wait until the major fixes are out, or?
Yeah, as part of the options that I provided libraries, which was that you can do this reimbursement and keep things going, or if you really didn't want to have to really even deal with this at this stage, you could disable the online payment for your profile. So a few libraries took us up on that request, and we removed the button. So all the setup is done in the background, it's just the button's gone. Those libraries that opted in to that, do they want to jump back in and start using it again? I'd like to find out a little bit more to see if the number of issues died down, specifically after that first week of May. We could certainly try it out with a few libraries to see if they want to try it for a while and see what happens if they encounter the issue. The major fix is coming in August, is what we're being told. So if you would rather just wait until it's all done, I'm still leaving it up to a per library basis on what to do. I would say for those of you that feel like your patrons would be upset if they couldn't do it, just to live with the problem until then, that's what I would do. But I could see where some of you really don't want to be having to deal with an issue like this, especially since, one, we never encountered issues like this with Webpack and Millennium. I just have to say that. Even though we're dealing with it centralized here, I never had ever a patron say, or a library say, that the payment didn't get updated in Millennium. So I've made that clear to Cersei Dynex that this has to be rock solid, and you can't doubt its functionality. Okay, 2 more questions. Jamie?
Well, I guess what I wonder, Aaron, is are we the only ones doing this online? Or don't we have other consortiums?
There are other consortia using this. CCS was using it. They were one of the very early adopters with it, and they did encounter a number of issues. A lot of them were resolved. When I followed up with CCS asking, are you still encountering issues like this? The answer from the CCS staff was no. But that being said, it could be that library staff may have some processes in place that if this happens, that they know how to reimburse and deal with it. I just don't really know, Jamie.
So was this something newer that Cersei Dynex brought?
It is.
Okay.
It is newer. It is newer. The Justin Swain, who is out here at the December quarterly, is my main contact with that, and he's noted that they are taking a lot of steps to make sure that they're going to deal with the issue. He said that they were coming up with patches that would fix things, and then they encounter an issue again later, and they said that they recognized that that approach was just not the way they wanted this to happen. So they're looking at a thorough review of the system and a big fix to it coming later. So it's technically, it calls back to the Symphony system by talking to something called web services. The first call it makes, which is, hey, here's the information that you need to display the amount, and here's the amount. The second one is to update the record. It's the second callback where it fails some of the time. The first time, it's almost 100% working all the time is what they're saying. It's the second callback where it can't update the account. Downers had one instance where inexplicably the patron paid like 5 things on their account and it only updated the first one. Most of the issues are that it can't update any of them. I think I have about 5 cases and 5 good examples open. When I say cases, these are what you open up with Cersei Dynex as examples. So as libraries give me these examples, I usually ask for the ProPay email, the date when it happened, and the patron record, and then I can go in and say, boom, 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 here are the 3 instances where this happened. I don't think I made it clear initially that you should just clear that patron record immediately. You know, once I have what I need, you don't want a patron sitting there unhappy till August. So, Sarah?
So the major fix coming in August, what does that entail? I mean, are there specific goals that they've laid out?
No, I don't have those goals. As far as what the big fix looks like,
Like a nebulous solution, possibly. So
it may be a complete rewrite of it. I'm really not sure. Alsip and I and SWAN have been talking about doing a pilot with the swipes. So
we're already doing swipes, which is why I offered.
yeah, and let's just talk a little bit about what we were looking at as far as a pilot. So the credit card swipes is something that we said that we would be looking at for September. The way, at least we were thinking here internally, was to approach this with a library that already has swipes at their desk, so that if we are doing this pilot and we encounter issues right away with that the credit card payments at the desk, at least with the Cersei Dynex ProPay, have issues and we have to take it offline a little bit, you're not taking anything away from the patron as a new service. So you have a credit card system in place. You could just go right back over to the old system and use that till we get things worked out. I don't want to say that we can't begin work now to at least start looking at the functionality and the swipes and everything that's needed to make sure that it's happening. I would advise us to wait till the big fix comes before we really get moving on that. So I may have an update in September, but I may not have the full rollout at September because we're waiting on the big fix. Question back, Mary Beth.
So CCS was having problems with it, and he still did the big sell-ons, knowing there were problems with it. I'm a little aggravated.
Yeah, I'm a little aggravated as well, as far as knowing that there are issues. That said, SWAN as a group, we don't work in isolation. We really, really make sure to reach out and find out how it's going in other setups as far as what CCS had. So when I heard all this, then is before our go live, which was more about like, well, knowing what I described for you, which is that when they put a fix in, everybody gets it. And I clarified that with them. Like, was there a fix that they got that we need to get? Everybody got the fix. So it was more about checking with CCS and them saying the issues, as far as we're concerned, have mostly been resolved. We're not having them. That isn't to say that SWAN doesn't come up with a whole new set of issues. It could just be the way our web services is communicating back. 3.5, we're on 3.5 Symphony, and they're not. There's some variations in our setups. I'm not happy this happened, if that's not clear. And they know it. And for those of you that have disabled and want to wait, that's fine. Those of you that feel like, well, it's working the majority of the time and I'll deal with the refunds. When we were looking over logs for libraries as far as the number of transactions that have been going through since April 14th, you know, it's not, I don't know how you all feel about it. It doesn't seem like a huge number of transactions that go through for libraries. I want to say it seems like for the most part in the last 50 days it may be like around 20 for one of the busier sites. It could be a lot more if you're a larger library and your patrons love paying online. Other questions? Yes?
So if the pilot project isn't starting until September,
Mm-hmm.
when might it be that the rest of us will get to?
Yeah, the good question is if we don't do the pilot till around August, September, when are the rest of the SWAN library is going to get this? Hopefully the pilot will go well and we'll have a speedy rollout is all I can promise you. But I don't think we want to stick to a date and give you something that's not working well. That said, there are some PCI compliance things that are supposed to be coming later this fall. We'll be continuing to monitor that to make sure that the hardware we're getting fits in with all that. And again, SWAN has pledged that we would buy every library at least their first swipe, so we're still sticking to that.
Will you just be piloting with the one library then? Because I know when we first talked about the pilots, I was asking, because our library uses Square, that you
Yeah.
were going to have different kinds of setups that you were going to pilot with.
Yeah.
Unless the new way with the swipes will do everything we want, we don't want to have Cersei doing it and Square. We want to get rid of Square then.
Okay.
Unless it really is going
So-
to do like Ann said, donations and print cards and all of these different things.
So let me rephrase this for our online audience. So the question is, if you have a solution in place, like let's say with a vendor, and you're fairly happy with it, and you look at the Cersei dining solution, and you say, well, it's good, but it doesn't have any added functionality. Do you want to keep your current setup? Could you do that? Yeah, you could do that, but I think you're not going to have the tie-in with any other system you're going to have, which is that it'll interact with the patron record in the workflows client and just update it, so you'll eliminate that additional staff step.
I just don't want to run two separate.
Yeah, you don't want to run two, but for a library that may be piloting or a library that may want to do their initial, when we do the rollout, you may want to keep both systems going for a period. I mean, we still have Millennium running in the background. So.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes. You said you wanted donations and print cards?
Oh, no, I was just going with Ann's suggestion. It was just that if everything that we get a payment for could go through the swipes, then we don't need Square.
Yeah.
But if the swipe won't take, I don't know, whatever it is, Friends book sale, then I still have to use SWAN.
Okay, yeah.
Square.
There's a
That's what I'm.
Well, it would be helpful, I think, for us as we're talking with Cersei Dynamics when they're doing development to know sort of broadly what's in use at libraries. So I'm just some notes.
sounds like we may have a survey coming where we may ask you how you like your credit card systems now and what you're doing with them so that we can research a little bit more as far as when we get to the step of doing desk swipes. So question in the back, yeah?
Hi, I hate to sound like a wicked old witch, but didn't you do this before? I mean, really, aren't they supposed to be responding to what we need?
Who's that?
Okay, shouldn't we be telling them how to configure it since they're going through a change at this point? I think that's an excellent idea to do with questionnaire.
Yeah, there may be some ways of doing exactly what we're talking about right now with some of the other services. So we're going to need to look into it, Meg, as far as doing donations and things like that. There's a whole added service that we're going to eventually be exploring as well, which will allow.
But if you're going to do a rollout of everything that we need rather than piecemeal. Because
Right.
people will get caught, it's just a between the decisions. If they have to have full functionality, they're not going to want it.
Right. I think in terms of dictating what we want to the vendor as far as being able to get features in there that don't exist, I'll outline a little at the end of some of what Cersei Dynamics does for this. So we have signed up with a vendor that is very much in the business of listening to what our needs are as customers and making sure that they incorporate them in. That said, we may not have something immediate. It may come in, a next service pack or a dot release is what is the takeaway here as far as these roadmaps. We may not have something, so it may be that we'll say, well, it's technically ready, but we may need to wait till 1507 before we actually get what we wanted. So their development process is continuous. So if there's new things that need to be added in or things that may not work, there's always opportunity to get those rolled into it. So not knowing exactly everything that the libraries want and not knowing exactly everything that Cersei Dynamics has to address that at this moment, we'll get more information from you as far as your credit card usage now and what we can do or not do in the new system and what we can request for them to build in. Sarah?
No, like with regards to the swipes themselves, because something that we're looking at, and so and maybe this is already, being addressed with them, is there going to be a swipe where the patrons can swipe themselves or a chip card reader? Because in terms of security and liability, that's the way to go. Everywhere is going to have a chip reader rather than a swipe, and really soon Europe already has it. And when we're taking patrons' cards and swiping them, that's something I would like to get away from for security.
Right.
And so we are not liable.
I think they did say that it's a swiper that the patron swipes themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I think it depends on how we set it up.
Right.
It could be that the patron just swipes their card themselves, or you hand it over and they swipe it. You swipe it. So for the people at home, the goal, at least I would say generally speaking, in credit card payments is just to have the patron do it. That you're not taking the card, or they're doing the chip and pin. You've probably noted, when I walk into Target now, I know it's a totally different process now because they've had those big breaches there. So yes, I think we want to make sure that we're seeing those advances come along. But that technology is always evolving too, so I'd hate to say like you're going to get a swipe and then we may not have to get different swipes a year from now.
I just want to know that there is the awareness there. And
Yeah.
there will be the option moving forward. So, because I know people think like, oh, libraries, it's totally safe, but everything is cloud-based, nothing is safe. So I just want to make sure that we are keeping up with that technology as it comes up.
This is an area that I've always been very much interested in and very much been interested in the consortia adopting. We do have a little bit of the uphill battle that a lot of libraries just simply they've never done credit cards before, so we're having to sort of bring libraries along, and then we have libraries that have been doing it for a while, and they have a system that, how long do I run it side by side? What elements of the systems I have now do I need to retain because the system I'm going to get won't fill that need. We're already dealing with the fact that there's some self-check systems that only work with one type of payment vendor and not ProPay. So then the library's got the headache of like, I have several vendors that I'm contending with. We're aware of that as well. So I think as we're adopting this, we'll see what more we can do to try to, one, have some sort of convergence taking place with some of our vendors, like 3M or other self-check vendors, to see if they have flexibility with the payment integration. I'll go back to commerce. Oh, cataloging. If we're done talking about commerce, I want to talk about Blue Cloud cataloging. Move on. Karen Barr is going to come up and talk about Blue Cloud cataloging. Oh, wait, she's on vacation. So it'll be up to me to sort of just give a very brief overview of what Blue Cloud cataloging means. So that'll be with me, and I'm an old cataloger. So this is their first staff client that they've created in their Blue Cloud system. I'm calling it first module, but really we have to also start thinking less and less about modules because I think that's sort of millennium speak. Right now where we're at as far as what SWAN Bibliographic Services was doing, since this was something that was almost our first foray into the Blue Cloud system, we had to do a lot of setup behind the scenes to, one, make sure that we got it installed. There was a lot of work of getting the web services part going because there's this connector that allows everything to sort of, in Blue Cloud, to talk back to SWAN and then back into Symphony. We've been working on staff logins, and a big part of this was also creating the institutions, which are all the SWAN libraries, bookmobiles, and branches. So I have a screenshot here. I'm not going to do a live demo of it, but what we're looking at, as you can see, is that it's going to be all browser-based. Maybe a little difficult to see here, but MARC records will be displayed fully within the browser. I think what we're going to see from BIB services is that they are going to be looking at functionality that the Blue Cloud staff login can provide our libraries and offer it as maybe a solution for libraries in certain types of workflow situations. So it's not that you have to stop using Symphony workflows and use this. It might be that this has the features that I'm looking for, and I will start using it right away. So you may have, if you're a cataloging library, your cataloging department, maybe some of the staff may like using this, and then some other clerical staff may like using the Blue Cloud because it's able to do what they need to do in terms of their workflow. There was a lot of work kind of getting kind of familiar with this right up to the go live, and then we really had to stop and kind of focus on the transition, a lot of item record cleanup. That said, the cataloging module is the one that's furthest along. As I noted on that roadmap, the circulation development is underway. That's all I have for the moment about the cataloging. Analytics is the reporting tool that Cersei Dynex has created. It is, here's a screenshot of what it looks like. It's going to be a very different experience for staff, library staff that want to be able to run reports. It's a different experience for us at the moment in terms of being able to drill down into data. Data is organized in what's called cubes. The checkout cube, catalog cube, and user cube are all that's available at the moment. So what we have is a whole structure in place, but we don't have like canned reports available. So we're at the stage where we have SWAN staff are able to log in and access it. We have not taken the steps to create logins for the libraries to begin using it, mostly because there's additional data cubes coming, and it's when these cubes arrive that we'll really then be looking at a lot of the functionality that we're after, such as the historical data, bill data, and hold data. And I've tied these numbers in here because they tie into that roadmap. So we've done a lot of work on statistics over the last 25 days. Kate Boyle's going to come up and talk a lot more about the reports that we've created from the Symphony side. Just acknowledging to you all that you have not had access to analytics, but there's a good reason for it, is that it's maybe not entirely useful in its present state, but they have promised us that coming June and July, these additional cubes will be coming, and then you'll start to see more from SWAN about analytics and what analytics can do when we have time to dig into it as well. Kate, you ready to come up and talk about all the other cool stuff? So here's the timeline for analytics, as I was noting, the 6 and 7, and this gets into a little bit more of what's coming long term. What maybe some of you didn't know is, where was acquisitions? Acquisitions is coming later. There's the ability also to do some data uploads, so that if you have data that you've collected from maybe a self-check and you're like, well, I want this self-check data from my Biblioteca self-check, it's a log file, I want this to go up in the analytics. They say it will have the ability to accept this upload, and then you can slice and dice that data as part of your analytics. That's it.
Okay.
All right, Kate Boyle, Member Services Manager. She's going to talk about a lot of the other stats and go over a few other things. And I'm going to turn off my mic. You want to use that one?
I do it the old-fashioned way. So if we look at the SWAN website, and we're looking specifically at the statistics page, you'll see, when it comes up, that this month we have like 14 statistical reports compared to like 5 last month. And the reports, I heard from people, they wanted stats by interface. And so I went in and we looked at that, and once we were able to identify what the various interface numbers meant, we were able to generate the statistics that you're, what?
It saved my old password.
Well, I don't even know why we need a password because I set this page to public, but that's okay. Okay, there it goes. Dun, da, da, da. Okay, so this one is pretty simple. It's got your statistics for checkouts that were done in workflows, checkouts that were performed at your self-checks, and then there's this unknown column. Well, I've asked Cersei to explain what unknown means, where it comes from. And so we'll have a better label for that next month. Okay. Yeah, you want to drive? Bring me up, go back to the page and then bring up renewals. Renewals is very interesting, and you'll see some areas where there are no stats, and I'll explain what that means.
This one?
That one. It's so high-tech, it takes 2 of us. Okay, so you'll notice these 2 are, this is renewals that happen at on Enterprise by your patron, and you're all familiar with the patrons placing, doing renewals online. And then there's a workflow statistic, and then patrons do renewals also at self-checks, so that's there. SVA, well, what's SVA? Well, SVA is, the robocalling, and it is a 2-way process, and there is the potential for patrons to renew using SVA. And so Stephen's going to talk about SVA in a little while, and he maybe can shed some light on that. BookMine, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, but BookMine is the patron's interface that they can use through their tablet or their phone to actually renew items. And again, we have that lovely unknown column. But we do have a total for you, and these are all, valid statistics, so we don't have to worry about all the problems that we had at migration. Okay, and then last month I didn't even bother to give you holds because I knew they were going to have no touch with reality. So anyhow, so here's your holds for May, and again, it's holds placed in Enterprise, holds placed in workflows, BookMine, and you'll notice someone in Bellwood has been using BookMine to place holds. Now, how did that happen? We're going to get to that in a minute. And then WebCat, which again is kind of a nebulous area. You would think Enterprise would be WebCat, but we'll get a better clarification on that too. Okay, and then the next group of checkouts that you'll see, I broke them out and labeled them the way that your staff are used to seeing them. Pico 2, Pico 3, Pico 4. They're not actually Pico 2, 3, and 4 anymore. They're user category 7, 8, and the library defined user category. But this is where they get those numbers that they love to plug in for the IPLET reports, okay? The monthly checkouts by item library and library profile are, and if you want to bring that one up, Aaron, that's your reciprocal borrowing statistic. What's nice about this is it includes, as you go across the top, you'll see that I've highlighted some of them because some of them are like kind of generic patrons and you might not want to include them in your checkouts. You might want to subtract them. But as you go over, you'll notice that the Chicago patrons are included in here. And the non-SWAN RB patrons are also included. So unless you want an individual breakout by library, which would be either the P code 3 or the P code 4, you can just use these totals for those reciprocal borrowing stats. Now, this is the same as the ILL sent and received, where it means one thing if you read it this way, and it means the opposite if you read it this way. So this tracks circulation activity of your patrons wherever they roam, and it also tracks other library patrons coming into your library. So if you come down the first column, that's the charging library. So, Lord knows how long this cord is. So Bellwood, if you look across Bellwood, that is all the patrons coming in as reciprocal borrowers to Bellwood. If you find Bellwood along the top and read down, that's Bellwood patrons wherever they may roam. Okay? So it does double duty just like the ILL sent and received does. Thank you, Aaron.
Do you need more demo?
No, so we have the ILL sent and received, and it's exactly, the ILL sent and received is exactly the same as monthly checkouts by charging library and item library, only I strip out all your internal numbers. So, and you're used to seeing that. We've got in-house use, okay, but to have a statistic in in-house use, you have to use the marked used wizard. You know, you go around the library and you check things in as used. Then it can actually pull a stat at the end of the month. Monthly users added. We've got this for you. What we're still working on are bibs and items. We're going to have to go in and kind of tweak some bibliographic reports because it's not something that you can do out of the transaction logs because it puts bibs and items together in the transaction log. So I'm going to have to play with that. And when I get it, I'll get it retroactively to where we need it from. And then daily circ stats. We've been running daily circ stats, and this is the monthly workbook for daily circ stats, if you want to see it. And then I also, there's a page for every day. See at the bottom? Okay? So there you go. There's your daily stats if you really want to know. And then I also reference the monthly item type by item category 2 report. That's going to break out your circs by item category 2, which is adult, juvie, teen, that kind of thing. So it seems to help for those libraries that are kind of looking for IC2 stats, which of course we can't support anymore. And we can go through all that because I explained all that. In addition, thank you. Go ahead. Okay. In addition, we have created a login in Workflows called Report with a password of Report. Super secret. We made it real easy. And this is where we are putting generic reports that your staff can run whenever they want. So this is where we have list purchase alerts with demand management, which translates to high demand holds. So they can come in and run high demand holds whenever they need to run it. There's 3 or 4 circulation reports in there that they can run. And then there's 3 or 4 bib stats that they can run using report. And the one that I referred to earlier, the item type against the item category 2, is also in there. So they can log in generically, specify your library in the query, and generate statistics for your library. A number of libraries are using this to run the clean holds report, which is the former clear hold shelf, because they prefer to run it more closely to the time that they have staff come in to actually do that bit of work. So some libraries prefer to run that at 3. We run it at 7:15. So the capability is there for you to run it whenever you want to run it. Now, with creating these template reports, we had to create some rules because the way Symphony is structured, we can only run one report at a time. So we have asked anyone who's using this reports template folder to only use reports between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. That way we can run all our maintenance that we need to run without any interference. So we're asking you not to schedule anything beyond that. And as we're all learning about reports, we've had instances where some reports, because they were just structured too broadly, are taking forever to run. What we have stated here is that we are killing reports that are running over 20 minutes. We really aren't. We're trying to wait them out because we have no idea what the exact query was. We can't go in there and see how they constructed it. We just kind of have to. So basically what we're doing is we're kind of waiting for your staff who are so familiar with the ticket system to come to us with a ticket saying, you know, something's been hung up for an hour. And then we immediately go in and kill it. Sorry. Yes?
Is that one report for all the libraries at a time, or one report per library?
One report for all the libraries at a time. And when you go in, Meg, and you want to look at if there's a report currently running, there's a little button to do that. But when you are presented with that window, it only lists the one report that's running. It doesn't give you any idea how many are queued behind it.
So how do you get in the queue?
You get in the queue just by telling it to run, and it just automatically is put into a queue by date
Right.
and time.
Any way to find out where you are in the queue? No.
No.
Can we ask them to put that in as functionality in the future?
I've already done that because it seems like everybody wants to know, where am I in the queue? And what inevitably happens is someone runs the report again because they think, oh, it must have fallen off somewhere. So you'll see 2 or 3 reports run.
Does it carry from day to day in case there are little of them?
Sorry?
Does it carry over past the,
No, because when we do a halt and run,
every day, right?
yeah.
So if you don't get your report the day you filed it, you will not be getting it.
I would venture to say that is accurate, yes. And that's why we say stop doing stuff at 6, because we do a kill, a halt and run, at 9:55 every evening.
You look annoyed. Thanks.
Okay. So, we do rely on you sometimes to alert us that there's a holdup with reports coming out. And so if you just send in a ticket, we right away go in and look at it and see how long it's been running. We can tell that. And we can, yes?
This has nothing to do with the clear shelves report.
Clear hold report? Well, if you're doing it on your own, it does. But if you're having us do it for you, which everybody except like 10 libraries is at present, that is run at 7:15 in the morning, so there's no interference with that. Yeah.
Kate, it might be worth mentioning, most reports only run for a minute.
Yeah.
So.
They're very quick if they're constructed correctly. If they're constructed too broadly, and it's run against the whole database, and it's doing it a couple of times, then it could take a while. Yes? Who had a question?
So are there some guidelines or parameters? Are you going to show us or talk to us about how to run a good report? Or
We
is
are
it
doing
similar to what we've done before?
As we have put reports into the report area, we've issued documentation on how to use those, okay?
Yeah, but
The current ones that are currently available.
But when we want to do our own or construct our own.
Well, you construct them from the records, the report templates that are already constructed, and they have documentation. In addition, there will be a workshop on reports. We're looking at mid-July, okay? So there will be that opportunity for everyone to come in and see what we know anyhow. Yes?
Is the high demand holds report accurately reflecting things? Because my staff said not. Now, I don't know if there's a ticket or if it's us not constructing it correctly. I mean, Julie's on vacation. I heard this yesterday at a meeting. So they get like 6 items on a high demand hold list, which obviously is not right. So.
What I've heard from people is that titles repeat and repeat and repeat, and there's multiple lines. That's because they're reporting different formats or off of different bib records. So you'll see those multiple lines. I have seen libraries report, yeah, I'm not getting what I should be getting. And I'll go back, I usually talk to them over the phone then and say, let's try it this way, let's try it that way. But it is not the same as the Millennium Report. Okay, it's not going to report exactly like Millennium used to. The query runs differently. It's hard to, if you're looking for your patrons holds against items that you don't even have a copy of, that's hard to obtain, and because there is not an equal zero, you know. So some things we just can't do, some things, you know, we're going to keep working on until we can massage it and get it right. So have whomever call me.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. So, and also, you know, as your staff identify holds, not holds, but reports that they need, if they could just go ahead, they're all used to sending in tickets now, just send in a ticket and say, I want to know how to alert my patrons who are expiring this month that their cards are expiring. And how would I do that? And we're working on that right now for a library that wants to do that. So we just need ideas as to what specifically you want. So, let's see, any other questions about holds? Not holds, reports. I got holds on the mines this morning. I was with the Chicago patrons and the non-SWAN patrons. Meg?
So somebody gets a report on how to alert their patrons that their cards are expiring, and I want to steal them. Is it in there for me to use, or is it?
Once we develop it and we know it's running correctly, we will add it to reports, and we'll send out an announcement with documentation. Okay? That's my game plan. Yes, Jamie.
Thanks for being so responsive to all of our concerns in the last month on these reports, because obviously they're very important to us. And I just know from my library, I know there's so many different things you all are working on, but these reports and this information is so crucial to us. So I'm like, go for the reports.
Yeah.
You know, every time you put in reports is really crucial.
Oh, and Dave has still following the calendar information that he has, preparing like the stats he always did for IPLAR for everybody. And those are going out as you need them. So you'll still get the same kind of reports that Dave used to send to you on your annual for IPLAR. Okay. All right. Yes, I'm sorry.
Just, I may be in the wrong place here, but developing customized reports for statistics, are these, when can we be able to be pulling reports for weeding or pulling reports for circ stats? So, are we going to get trained on that more, or can we do that now? I don't necessarily know, and I don't know if my staff know,
If you're talking inventory, I would say talk to BIB Services, because I know that they did some training on inventory in their catalog training. Okay, so you might want to call them. Karen's on vacation right now, but there is other bibliographic services staff here that can help you. Anybody else on stats? Because I know it's everyone's favorite topic, right? Right now. Okay. Well, are we moving in the right direction here? It's better. Okay. Very good. All right, so now for something completely different. I want you to take out your tablet or your smartphone and look and see if you have the BookMine app. Anybody have the BookMine app on their phone or their tablet? Oh, come on, I've got lovely gifts. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Cindy, you have BookMine on your phone or on your tablet? On your phone. Have you used? You want to hand them out? Have you used it? Okay, well, maybe you've got some statistics then up here this month. I know. You have it now. Okay. So, what you want to do is you want to go to your App Store or your Play Store, and you want to download BookMine. And if you want to do it now, because we're going to walk through it, I'm going to show you all the features of BookMine. Will it not connect for you? Choose Rails Public and there's no password. So as it downloads, this is the answer to your patrons that say, workflow, not workflows, but enterprise doesn't display right on my tablet. Well, now you can say to them, no, but Bookmine will, and download Bookmine. Okay, and so that's what it looks like. All right, so that's the app you want to download. Okay, and if you want to go ahead and here's the informational screens to tell you all about the various capabilities of Bookmine. But let's go in and actually open it up. Okay, and the first thing you'll see up at the top is Change Library or Find Library at the bottom of the screen. If you click on Find Library, am I moving ahead too fast? Are people still downloading? Okay, I'll wait. It will find a library either by searching a term or actually searching from your position, your GPS, it's going to find what library is close to you. So click Nearby Search. Thank you, Stephen. I need all these men to help me today.
It's new technology, it doesn't always work, so.
Okay, so you'll notice what came up is an ever-increasing circle of libraries from where we are. So, Lions is here, and as it goes out, it expands further and further. And it's not just pulling in SWAN libraries. It also pulls in like Green Hills and Lansing because they're Cersei Dynex libraries. But let's pick a library.
What do you want to pick on?
I don't know, pick on Payless Heights. Statistics for Bookmine, so obviously some people have discovered it. Okay, just say add this library down at the bottom. And pretty soon they could choose to add as many libraries as they want, but it doesn't really make much difference. Just click on, okay. So now click on search. What's cool is you see this barcode scanner? Click on barcode scanner. And go ahead and scan that ISBN. Because it will scan an ISBN right off the back of a book.
Oh man, I'm gonna do that at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah,
Hang on.
you got to get it centered.
I'm not looking at it.
And it will go out and it will tell you how many copies there are and bring up the record. You're looking, it's upside down. It's reading upside down. Isn't that amazing?
It's not the best camera, so hang on.
Well, I tell you, I do it all the time with my phone, and it's just so cool. One more. You'll know when it grabs it. You got to go over a little. There. Now it should grab it. The kids have no problem doing this. It's just that Steven's too old.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
on the camera.
believe me, though, it's very cool. You just scan the ISBN, and up pops the SWAN record. You can also search rather mundanely by title, subject, author, okay, by search terms. What you might have to do in this instance. Just type in Harry Potter. Thank you. So your first assignment is to go home and scan an ISBN and see how that functionality works. So here's your keyword search of Harry Potter. Go ahead and just click on any one of them.
As you keep scrolling, it'll continue to add more to your list.
Yes. And it will bring up the item. You will have the capability to place a hold against the item. Once you log in and create your account, it can save your account settings so you don't have to log in all the time. So you could log in using your barcode and your PIN number, and it would keep that as your account settings. You want me to do that?
Trying and then failing with, you can pick one that's your home library.
Pardon me?
You can pick one that comes up automatically when you're in. I could pick Downers Grove because.
Yeah, you can pick anybody.
Once I retire, I'm gonna be launching Downers
Yeah,
Grove.
you can pick anything because you have the capability to change the pickup point.
I can blank out the screen so it doesn't show your PIN.
Oh, like I really care.
Oh, if it doesn't matter, then
It's not going to show the PIN unless I tell it to show the PIN. Unable to sign in.
You only got one number.
Huh? Pardon me?
You only got one number in.
I know, that's because I only have one number.
oh,
So Kate, once you sign in, like if you're a Woodridge patron, will it always go to Woodridge's holdings first? Once you have an account, otherwise, all these things are gonna be being requested that we might even have on the shelf.
Yeah, it should show you Woodridge first.
Okay.
Do I not have enough zeros? Let us see. Put it on here, get rid of that. Tell it to go. Okay, so now I select a pickup location, and I can go, just go all the way down to wherever I want to go. And I'm just going to say McCook because I'm going to cancel this hold right away. And I save it. And I place a hold. And I can close. And now you see the little box up at the top, edit hold. You can go in and edit the hold, and what you can do is you can remove the hold, cancel it, you can suspend it, or you can change the pickup point. All right? I'm not going to do any of those right now. So are people having fun and playing along? Yes, questions?
Would your library automatically begin this, or do you have to do something to be part of it?
No, we've created like all the accounts here, okay? So it should find you.
When I put my address in, it says, ask your library to set up a bookmark directory list.
Seriously,
Yeah.
because they were all created here. We cannot find you. Anybody else?
Crestwood's more than 10 miles away.
No, it should find you. Wait a minute, let's get out of this. All right, click on change library, and did you type in Crestwood?
Yes, and the address. And that's what it said. Maybe it's something I had to do.
Yes.
It finds mine, but 5 or 6 times now I've tried to connect to my library, and it just keeps telling me that it's trying to connect to the internet,
Yeah.
and then it fails.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's probably just the speed in the room here.
Connections, I always get. Same here.
Yeah. You're clogging up the Wi-Fi. Steven said that could potentially happen.
yeah. Even Steve Jobs with Apple had that problem, so.
Everyone get off to the very bathroom.
I'm doing okay here. I've got Crestwood Public Library. So, yeah, you can go back and set it up and bring your library up. Yes, Cindy?
I just want to say, if your library doesn't have it, it tells you, it will say like, this one says, 4 of the 8 are available, Mount Park doesn't have it. So the user.
Oh, you mean as far as the item itself?
Yeah.
Yes, it will tell
So
you.
the user can quickly see if they want to go to your library and you don't have it, and that only 4 are available.
Exactly, yeah. It lets you know how many copies there are system-wide because it knows SWAN as an entity, and then it will tell you where it is if it isn't at your library. Okay? So they can also view bestsellers, although bestsellers take a while to download, so don't hit that right now. You can go ahead and download e-resources and then, do basic searching. So it's pretty cool. I think, you probably want to make sure that your public desk staff know about this, because patrons will be coming in saying, I got a question about this. All right, and Bookmine Plus will be coming out in the third quarter. Okay, so until then, people are using Bookmine, and it's just not branded for your library. But they'll have the same functionality. So Bookmine is ready for Android and iOS users. Pardon me? You're just having fun back there?
Still trying to find ourselves.
Okay.
A long haul.
And Bookmine Plus then will be coming up. We're going to start it as a pilot with LaGrange. We always like to pilot things when we can. So, and then we'll have a report at the September quarterly about how that's all going. All right? So there's your little Bookmine demonstration. Now, this is a very cool pilot that we're working on with Oak Park. You've had your book bike for how long, David? A couple of months, okay. But we've gone ahead and we're implementing mobile circ, because the idea behind the book bike is it goes out to the people, goes to the festivals and the farmers market and things like that, right? So we thought that would be a perfect pilot to work with Oak Park on. So as you can see, there's their bike closed up, and there it is already with its display pieces and everything. And they have an iPad tablet all ready to go. So we're going to configure mobile circ for them and let them test it as a pilot. And then as soon as we've run it through its paces, we'll start organizing training on Bookmine. Okay? So that's the story about Bookmine and its pilot. Any questions? The intent with Bookmine is that you can take workflows anywhere you go. Mobile circ. Yeah, mobile circ. I didn't take my B12 this morning. So the intent is you can take it anywhere. So for Eisenhower, where they used to have a laptop they rolled into the stacks, and Peggy used to have a little apron that people wore that, had scanners or whatever, you're going to be able to do all that with a tablet now. So stop production of the aprons at Eisenhower. Okay, we're not going to really need them unless you want to carry around that little printer, but, So, so mobile circ will be along, and you'll be able to take it out to the farmer's market, or you'll be able to use it within the library stacks or wherever you want to use it. All right? Okay. I think the next person up is Stephen to talk about SVA.
Okay. So SVA. So I always forget what that stands for, but I believe it's Cersei Dynamics Voice Automation System. It's basically our auto dialer. It's what we're going to use to robo-dial patrons, and we can let them know pretty much everything that a standard notice can let them know. So we can let them know if they have overdue items. We can let them know that there are holds available. And then there are also menus within the SVA. If you were to call the SVA back, you can renew items. You can find all of your holds. You can find any item that you currently have checked out. So we've been working on that, and we finally have it kind of going for the SWAN staff. It's a fickle server, so we had some issues with it, but I think we have those just about ironed out. So basically, we've configured the calling hours for Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. We think that's a pretty good window right now. And then Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's currently only an opt-in program, so we might work on that in the future, but it's currently based on the notice preference of phone. So anyone that has a notice preference of phone, it could be calling in the future. Currently, it's only calling SWAN staff. And I'll give you an idea of kind of the timeline in just a moment, but our pilot is currently with SWAN staff. We're going to reach out to Woodridge staff, and then it'll also be Woodridge patrons from there. And I'll show you the timeline in just a second. Anytime that we roll it out to, when we roll it out to Woodridge and when we're rolling it out to your libraries, we'll have some documentation that you can look over in terms of the call times, how to configure the patrons' information so that they actually do get the call, and so you know which phone field is actually being called by the SVA system. I actually have a sample of what the SVA sounds like. This is actually a call to Ian.
Hello from the SWAN Library Consortium Automated Phone System. Ian. Nozick. This is a message from your local library. This is your third notice that you have overdue items at your local library. For more information, view your library account online at catalog.swanlibraries.net or contact your library. Thank you and have a nice day.
So she has a little bit of emphasis in her voice, not totally robotic. We're actually going to hire someone that has the robotic voice and just record over all of them. So it sounds a little like that. But what's really cool is there's a lot of stuff that we can do with it. So what you just heard was just kind of our generic configuration. So that's the default language profile. It just says your library. But as we get moving with this and as we do more customization, we can actually have it say, Oak Lawn Library or Downers Grove. It can actually specify the library based on the patron. So it recognizes the library that the patron is at, and then it selects the specific language file based on that. So right now we just have the generic one. We'll be piloting with the generic one, and we'll continue to kind of expand on that as we move forward. And eventually we might even have recordings that'll replace all of them. We're trying to keep it so that it doesn't say any specifics, so we can't get in any trouble where it names off all the titles that are overdue or anything like that. It just tells the patrons that there are overdues and they should follow up with their library or they should visit the website. So let me give you an idea really quick of the implementation schedule. June, we're working on the SWAN pilot right now, and so it's actually been calling for the last week. It's been going very well. It seems like the server is following all the scheduled times, so it's not calling us at 3 in the morning. As I was concerned, it did one night. It wasn't actually my auto dialer, it was someone else's apparently. But yeah, it's following the schedule, so that's great. Then we're going to move on to a pilot with the Woodridge staff, and that's essentially to get them accustomed to it. They know what they're expecting for their patrons, and then we'll hand it off to the Woodridge patrons probably in July of 2015. And depending on how that goes, we might only need a couple weeks with it. We might need a month with it. But then I'm projecting August 2015 we'll do a full-scale rollout. And that's not firm, but with how it's going right now, I think we can say August 2015 should be a pretty good timetable. Yeah.
What's the caller ID going to say?
The caller ID, I believe we can customize that so it says something about call from SWAN. I'd prefer against that. Yeah, so we're still kind of tweaking it, but it'll have the 800 number. So it'll be calling from a different number, but the caller ID will show the 800 number that they can call back. And so it'll say something about from SWAN libraries or from your local library. Yeah.
Just an amusing thing, when you test out what it sounds like when it says each library, because our self-check can't say that locally.
That's a good point.
That robotic voice does not know what that is, so it says, thank you for using your library.
And in that case, it might be better for us just to we could either have it say your local library as we're doing with the demo, or we might just record it, and so that'll make it easier. We could just record 77 of them. So we do have a lot of options with it. Yeah.
Does it leave a message, or does it?
It does.
Have to be answered?
So it's not smart enough to know immediately when there's a voicemail system that's picking up. So if you have a long voicemail that says, oh, hey, this is who you've reached, I'm out of the office, it starts talking immediately because it thinks that it's talking to you. but it cycles. So you might catch the end of it where it says visit catalog.swanlibraries.net, and I'm kind of timing it so it works that way. And then it cycles and it does it again. So it says this is a call from your local library, and it goes through the whole thing. So it does cycle through it 2 times. So even if the voicemail cuts it off the first time, you'll get it the second time around.
Can you tell us more about the fact that the patrons can call that number then? And so what happens? How does that work?
Sure. So just to talk about the call-in a little bit, essentially what happens is the patron can call in, and it says that it's the SWAN Library Consortium automated automated calling system, and then it prompts you to put in your patron ID, then your PIN. And then it gives you a series of menus that you can go through where it's renewals, you can check your holds, I believe you could check the status of holds, and these are all things that we can customize. We haven't done a lot of customization with that just yet. Right now we're just working primarily on getting it calling. Any other questions on SVA? Yeah. They will get one call unless if they already have one hold and then another hold becomes available later on in the day, it might pick that up and then it'll call them again for that other later hold. Anything else? We'll have a lot of documentation for it before it's rolled out to your library, so this isn't the only thing that you're going to hear about SVA. There's a lot more to hear. Yeah. Yes, for the notice preference, if you set your notice preference to anything else.
No, I mean like library-wide. Like, say I don't want a robot to call. I want a person.
Right now, our goal is to basically focus on this as making it available to patrons with the ability individuals can opt out.
Right, I get that part.
Here.
What I'm saying is what if every library doesn't want a robot to call, they want a person, but I can't opt out. So.
Yeah, I guess you could say you could set all your patrons to do that, but the goal of this was to allow patrons to have the option of opting out of it based on the notice preference that's in their record. Yes, Jamie.
So Aaron, what would be their other options? Text message or this?
Yeah, well, there's always print, email, text messaging.
They'll still get print if they want it?
As far as what now, the notice stuff gets tricky as far as the sequence.
Print is an option in notice preference. Really? You prefer it?
So, Jamie, is yours, if they get called, do they get the other notices?
No. My question is what are their choices for getting notified?
Patrons?
What will be their patrons? Once this is live, what will be their various choices?
Choices within a text. They could enter their email address. Is the notice preference is also in the patron record, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the SMSs, yes, and the notice preference itself.
And the notice preference itself is in the patron record. But let's say they don't want to have the call. It's set by the notice preference.
Okay, because I've heard the paper were going away, so that's why I'm asking that question.
Paper is never really going to go away. It will remain as far as an option just because it's always going to be kind of our last default way of notification, but we're already starting to see the number of printing that we're doing here centrally is starting to shrink.
So paper's not going away at this point?
No, it's not going away. Nor necessarily do I picture it ever going away, but I could be wrong. We could be a couple years out and say like print has gotten so low for certain types of notices, we just may not generate print. I don't know. I know for other Cersei Dynex consortium that have moved forward with a lot of other notification options, at some point the option could be that the consortium will say, if you want to print your 20 print notices on your own, you could do that at your library instead of us doing it centrally. We could move to that point. At this point, the central printing is still in place.
You said the central printing is here, so does that mean if somebody chose it, print them here, and then would they be mailed out or sent to the library for delivery? Then there's that time delay, so.
Every note, yeah. All right, the question is about when we do centralized printing here, permitted to use it to be able to send notices like that. So we were always sort of under the gun, and we were allowed to continue that on the Millennium system up until April 14th. So Kate, you want to add to this?
Yes, I do. When we transitioned this to the printed reports going directly in the mail to the patron, we created 2 reports that are in the report area that allow you to run a report to see your items that have now a build status, okay, and also to run a report for your patrons. So there's 2 separate reports so that you can catch your items that are checked out somewhere else that, are now delinquent. Okay, so we've got that covered for those libraries that used to like to look at the report, the notices, and make notations,
So there are reports available to see those types of items.
Anything else on SVA? Yeah.
If somebody gets the robocall and they really don't want the robocall, do they have the option to?
No, not within the robocall. They would have to call the library back directly.
Oh, good question. All right, where are we at? All right, I'm going to ask Rebecca Malinowski to come up. She's going to talk about a committee that goes under the acronym DUCS and what's going on with Enterprise EDS.
Hi, I'm going to talk about DUCS. It's fun to say. It stands for Discovery and User Experience Team. And this is an outgrowth of some advisors we had from SWAN libraries during the configuration process. So discovery and user experience relates to primarily enterprise, and then also all the pieces that fit into it, like eResource Central, where you get your ebooks, EDS, which is EBSCO Discovery Service that we're going to talk about in just a minute. BookMine is another sort of tool for discovery, basically anything your patrons can use to find material. During the migration, we had 3 staff members. Our team did go down to 2 when one of them left SWAN Libraries for the academic world. That was very sad. But we had Anthony from Tinley Park and Keisha from Calumet City, who worked along SWAN's staff as we did enterprise administration training and enterprise configuration. And they brought the on the front lines library view of this is what our users need, this is what our users want. And we really valued their input and wanted to expand on that moving forward as we continue to customize enterprise and add some new features. So the team is now 7 members. Is that? Anthony and Keisha are going to stick with us, which we are very grateful for their continued support. And then we also have staff from Downers Grove, Eisenhower, Hinsdale, Indian Prairie, and Woodridge joining the team. Our first meeting is actually today, after this meeting, so a day of meetings. And we'll be taking up a lot of these questions that people have been submitting, like why does this say delinquent? Can we make it say something that's more positive or less negative at least? Questions about the way enterprise looks and feels, the way that patrons interact with it, talking about search configuration. So we're expanding the group a little bit to get some more minds on board. We have an ongoing list of tasks that we want to look into. So whenever you have questions about why does enterprise do this or what's up with eResource Central, please continue to send those to help@swanlibraries.net. My reply might be, oh, we'll have to have DUCS look at this, and it'll get added to our list, and we'll be reviewing it. Our plan right now is we'll be meeting monthly for the next 6 months, and we'll have an evaluation of the group at 3 months and 6 months to see how the size of the group is, what sort of work we've been able to accomplish, do we need to broaden our scope, narrow it. So there's opportunity for flexibility moving forward. So as I said, our first meeting is today, and these are kind of the first topics on our list. These are the things we've heard about largely from libraries over the past 50 days. We get a lot of questions like, when can we customize Enterprise? When can we add content to Enterprise? So that's in there is rooms and profile admin training. That's something for the team to go through and discuss. We are interested in providing the best possible user experience for patrons at their home library, and also providing, as much as possible, a cohesive experience across all libraries. So we want libraries to be able to customize to suit their needs, but we also don't want patrons to have a totally different search experience when they're at Indian Prairie versus Downers Grove, for example. So there's a little bit of a balancing act that we'll be taking into account the feedback from these library staff and the comments we get through help@swanlibraries.net. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about, yes?
I'm glad that we have a ducks group because, and I guess my question is, because I kind of feel, and like Meg, I kind of feel like the curmudgeon in the room, but I do think that the user experience with the catalog was a little less than we promised with all of our bookmarks and everything. And I think, with all the fanfare, we kind of deployed in pencil. So, a little bit. But anyway, my question is, from ducks, how do we change something? I mean, in 6 months after we've talked about this, do we actually have a conduit with Cersei Dynex so that these changes actually get implemented, and that the user experience with our catalog, which I'm getting direct feedback from patrons, isn't what they expect or what we promised it would be, that it will change, that these things will change.
So the question for people who couldn't hear is, and correct me if I'm missing anything, basically, so when the Ducks team makes a decision or makes a recommendation, what happens? What's the process? Does Cersei Dynex listen? Is it SWAN? Some of the changes SWAN will be able to implement in-house almost immediately. For example, we're talking about changing that user status of delinquent. We can change that. That is just a question of coming up with what we want to change it to. That's not an issue with development. So there are some things that we know we can change, and we can change them right away, and that's the stuff that we're tackling sort of early. What can we do immediately to make things better for our patrons? Then the second part of that is, for things that we can't change, things that we need new development from Cersei Dynex, how do we get it? We have a couple of areas. We have a consultant that we work with. Right now we're having weekly calls. Those will eventually taper to monthly, but we have in our contract this premium level of service with Cersei Dynex that includes consulting and customizations. So some things are just need to be developed for us. For example, when you open a detailed record in the catalog, you've got some tabs. Those used to be drawers all stacked on top of each other that were all closed. And it was hard to read and push content all the way down to the bottom. And our consultant was like, you know what we could do? We could use tabs, and was able to do that development for us. And didn't really need to go through any sort of formal process. She just could make it happen. Other things are hard-coded into the system, things that we can't change, and things that our consultant can't change. For that, there is Cersei Dynex enhancement forums. They're in conjunction with Kosugi, which is the consortia user group. Cersei Dynex has committed to, and I don't know the numbers exactly, accepting a certain number of enhancements from these forums each year on various topics, ranging from like 5 to 20 for like workflows, catalog enhancements, to ERC enhancements, to enterprise enhancements. Every year, Cersei Dynex says, okay, these are the things that libraries across our service area, all of our customers, said were the most important things to them. These are the things we're going to prioritize in our development. So it's not necessarily what SWAN wants, SWAN will get, but the things that SWAN wants that also other libraries have said, this is ridiculous, why can't we do this? We can go ahead and work with Cersei Dynex on that. An example of a change that was made through the enhancements forums before we went live, so you guys didn't even have to see this very odd behavior, Enterprise and workflows treated punctuation differently when you were searching. If you did a search for the tiger's wife in Enterprise with an apostrophe, and you did a search for the tiger's wife in Enterprise without an apostrophe, you would get different results. And you would not find the tiger's wife unless you put the apostrophe in. Libraries across the country were like, that's crazy, and that's not how search works. And through the enhancements process, we're able to get that changed pretty quickly, and before we went live. So we have seen enhancements come through that forum and be productive and useful. Aaron showed you the roadmap and sort of their development schedule. So every time there's a new release, a certain number of enhancements are included in that development. So what would happen is the Ducks team would say, you know, this is something we really want. And then SWAN would go to the enhancements forums and say, this is what we want. And other libraries would sort of like upvote it and say, yeah, we want that too. And then there's quarterly polls with Cersei Dynix where they pull from the enhancements. So does that sort of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm glad that there's a conduit that's a lot more immediate than having to go through a Cersei Dynix enhancement. Because like we saw with e-commerce, that's a really important thing, and yet it's August before we see it. And I'm also, if I'm hearing correctly from you, these enhancements don't have to be like product-wide. Like it does, we can have enhancements that pertain directly to the SWAN catalog, and it doesn't have to be across all enterprise users.
Yeah, I mean, Enterprise is really customizable, so there are features that we have on that other libraries don't, and that other libraries have on and that we don't. So when an enhancement is pushed through, we may use it or we may not. And yeah, we have some custom consulting that we can do with Cersei Dynix for things that we just want. Although once they do the consulting, they, so for example, this tabs widget that we have was actually written for another library by another consultant, and then our consultant got it and shared it with us, and then other libraries saw ours, and so it gets spread and dispersed. So there are multiple levels of development and sharing that happens even within the customer base. Okay. Other questions? That was a really good question. I should have included that to begin with. How do we make changes? Okay, so continue to send your feedback. We are listening, even if we can't make an immediate change. We've got a list, and we want to make it better. One of the things that we'll be doing is implementing new features. EDS we talked about some time ago. We talked about it quarterly last year. We've talked about it during enterprise training sessions. EDS is EBSCO's discovery service. It's available as a standalone product from EBSCO. Some libraries use it as their catalog, their primary discovery tool. What we'll be using is the API, so the integration between EBSCO Discovery Service and Enterprise. Each library will have a customized EDS profile that's connected to their enterprise profile, which means it will have a customized list of their electronic resources, their online databases, that will be integrated into search in enterprise. We started some integration and testing during the migration process with the 4 libraries you see up here. We had Brookfield Zoo, Elmwood Park, Morton Arboretum, and South Suburban College. We went through the profile setup process with them to gather all the information about their databases and get that to EBSCO. EBSCO builds it, sends it to Cersei Dynix. Cersei Dynix sends it to us, and then we plug it in. It was fun. The rest of our libraries that aren't listed here all received what we're calling the base profile, which is a customized profile including all of your EBSCO resources, and then a collection of open access resources that our user experience team helped us select from a list from EBSCO. This is not live in your catalogs yet. This is not available to you, and there's a few reasons for that. We're right now running Enterprise 4.3. 4.5 is targeted for a July release, and that has some new development that changes the way EDS looks in the catalog, the way you access the material, and also some terminology that during our testing we found very confusing. So we had determined some time ago to wait for this 4.5 release before we push Enterprise out. The way the interface looks is going to change sort of dramatically, and we didn't want to have to retrain staff and patrons on how to use this tool like just a month after going live. The new display will have improved search results and interfiled results. So instead of having results in 2 separate tabs, you could see them all on one page. And I'll show you the differences in just a minute. The other reason we're waiting right now is that authentication works great if you're in the library. If your users are in the library and they do a search and they come up to an online resource that they want, they click the button, they can download it, they're happy, and they can go on their way. If they're at home, they're going to get pushed to a third-party site, either EBSCO or another vendor, and prompted to log in again. So we're funneling all of the online resources into Enterprise, where they log in, and then they click on a resource and they're pushed out to another site and have to log in. And then they go back to Enterprise and they click on another resource and then they have to log in again. And we've determined that that's not ideal, and we are looking for a solution for both in-house, in-library users, as well as remote patrons for authentication. Similar to a proxy server, but works a little bit differently. And then the Rails and SWAN IT teams are also working on a third option. So we're evaluating these 3 options for authentication, and are targeting in a September, October release date for fully customized EDS profiles with authentication built in the new Enterprise release with interfiled results. So keep that in mind, and I'm going to show you a live demo of what EDS looks like now, and then I'll show you what 4.5 looks like too.
Just a quick question, going back to the profiles that were created. Can you repeat again? I know you mentioned it's the EBSCO sources plus...
The base, sort of not fully customized profiles right now are your EBSCO resources, which are customized, like what you have access to in EBSCO. And then EDS also has partnerships with a number of open access resources like JSTOR and Bio1 that you can select and say, I want to include these open access resources in my results, or I don't want to include them. It was a very long list. It included a lot of things like Japanese nature articles. So the UX team, which was the precursor to the DUX team, kind of whittled down that list to the things that seemed most relevant and useful, like ERIC and Medline and I think like the JSTOR open access selection.
So because I know we sent in a list of everything we had in databases, will those be included if they're not EBSCO?
They are not currently included, but they will be in the future.
They will, when it comes up, or is that a down the road thing?
Hopefully in September, October. That is our target. Okay. We have some more testing to do with our test libraries and making sure we get authentication working on all of that first. And then once that's kicking, we can just add a bunch of resources for everyone. So we'll probably have to recollect information from libraries because I'm sure a lot of your resources have changed over the past year. And that's one of the things we're considering when we're looking at these authentication options is how easy is it for SWAN or perhaps even for libraries to just go into Easy Proxy or Open Athens or this other solution and say, oh, I dropped this database and picked this one up, fix my authentication. So we want to make sure maintenance is as easy as possible moving forward. Yes?
Just to clarify, when you said it works fine in-house, you just mean through the OPACs, but not through like public computers. That's just as if they were at home.
It depends on how your library is set up, but if basically IP authentication works, so if your library IP range is your wireless networks, your public computers, and your OPACs, and that's set up in EBSCO admin, then it, Okay, let's see. So this is what it looks like now. Now I'm gonna pop into a web browser. So I have a demo site set up right now. And we'll be looking at Elmwood Park's set up. They've been very patient and helpful with us. Thank you to your staff. So it looks the same, Enterprise. The difference is when you click this search option here, you have a selection for EDS, Elmwood Park Public Library, and we can change that label so it says online resources or magazine articles or journals and newspapers or something like that. But right now it just says EDS. I can do an everything search, just like I would normally. And this is the current development. This is what we see if we went live today. So I get my library results, including my ERC, my digital ebooks and audiobooks, if I have any, on this front page for Harriet Tubman. And then I also have a tab here that says EDS Elmwood Park, and again, that could be changed to say whatever we'd like it to say. And I click on it, and I now see that I have results coming from a variety of online resources, everything that's set up with Elmwood Park. And I have a separate set of facets here. So if I performed a limit here and said I only want to see juvenile results, that is not going to affect my results over here because that juvenile tag doesn't live in the online resources. So there's a whole separate set of limiters here. I can say show me only full text. And the limits work the same way. I can click on them and then clear them here. I can do date published, source types, publisher. I can choose a specific publication. This is a list of the content providers that are appearing in this list. So you can see there are both EBSCO and non-EBSCO resources here. We've got Gale Virtual Reference Library. We've got our open source of ERIC and JSTOR. And again, like our facets in Enterprise, these are just the results. These are just the content providers that have results, not a complete list of all the content providers. And they have these research starters available for a lot of common topics, which EBSCO is very excited about and is fairly new development. So what I'm talking about when I say authentication isn't there yet, if I see this research starter and I say I want to see more, I have to put in a user ID and password. And maybe this is at your library, maybe it's a barcode or something, but I have to log in again. And I have a test password here. Maybe. One more time. Maybe not. Caps lock, not on. Elmwood API. All right, so this is a problem. Ideally, what would happen is with one of our new potential authentication solutions, you'd be prompted with a pop-up box for your library card number and PIN. You don't need a different password. You type in your library card number and your PIN, and then it would be good for the rest of your session, whether you're looking at an EBSCO resource, a Gale resource, any of the resources that are connected to EDS. When I am in a resource, I'm going to limit to full text. And I'm going to limit to JSTOR. So now I've limited to a specific content provider. When I'm in a detailed display, this is another thing that I think is confusing that is being changed in the future. If I click download, it's going to take me to that EBSCO page that I'm sure you're all familiar with, where you can like save, export, push to RefWorks if you use it. That's what happens when I click download, which to me is sort of like get more information, view this record, but not download. If I click view, it pulls the PDF full text up in a way that is very easy for me to download it and that users are comfortable with. So that terminology is changing in 4.5 as well. We all sort of found that confusing, and we're like, can we change the label text? Can we do something? They're like, no, that's just how it is. So that 4.5 release is going to have some more changes in that area. There's only one library that is on a pilot of Enterprise 4.5 that is using EDS right now, and they are not using the interfiled results. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of what that will look like when we get our new release of Enterprise. So again, this is what we currently see, and we have tabbed results. In the future, we have the option to have tabbed results or to have interfiled results. So on this screen, you see there are tabs still here, but this is a demo version with Cersei Dynix. So with the interfiled results, you wouldn't see the tabs. What we do have are our library facets here, which are the same ones that you would currently see. And then over here, there's a second set of facets, the EDS results, which are very similar to the ones I just showed you in the live demo. What is neat here is that there's a button here that says only show EDS results. And when you click it, it toggles, it deletes the library facets that were on the left side, it hides them, and you only see your magazines and newspapers, your online resources results, and then you have your limits there. Similarly, you can go back and say show all, you get all your results again, and then there's a similar button here, only show library results. I can click on it, and then I just have library material here in the center, so just the material that is physically at a library somewhere. Another thing, so that can be determined like on a system-wide basis. It would default to those interfiled results, but maybe you have users that have very specific needs. They only read print books. They have no desire to read online newspapers or magazines. They can come into my account and they can say, don't display EDS search results at all. They can say, I don't want to see them, I don't want to know they're there, don't include them in my results. Similarly, if you have someone who only wants online results, they're a student, they only use the library to do research, they only want to see EDS, they can say display, no they can't, but they can say merge and display library search results or display EDS search results in a separate tab. So they can choose what they want for their experience, which I think is nice because not every library user has the same needs. And while we can make a decision that, you know, this is how it will be, it will default to this, it's nice for individuals to be able to kind of assert themselves and say, that doesn't work for me, this is better. Let me go back. Another thing to point out, one thing that a common complaint people have with federated searches or these kind of searches that bring information in from all across resources is that the library's results tend to get pushed down in the search results because there's just so many more articles than there are books for searches. What EBSCO and Cersei Dynix have done here is when they say interfiled, they mean interfiled. They mean a one-to-one ratio of library results to online resources. So you do your search and your call goes back to Symphony to get the library results, and it goes to EBSCO to get your online database results. And then in the background, there's 2 separate results lists that are ranked with relevancy. And then your display says, give me the highest ranked library results and then the highest ranked article result, and does result 1 and result 2, and then it looks at the next highest library result and the next highest online resource. So it really is interfiled, 1 library result, 1 online resource, all the way down the page. So while you will be seeing a lot of online results, it will never be my whole first page is just all articles, and I have to go 3 pages in to get my books. So that is different, and I think kind of neat, and interested to see how that plays out in some additional testing. So that's what we're excited about. We're excited about the interfiling. We're excited about this authentication process and making it as seamless as possible for users, whether they're in the library or at home. That said, there are some compelling reasons that you guys might want to have this now in your libraries. So one thing that we're considering and would like some feedback on at this time, if you're prepared to share it, is if you would be interested in having this sort of like base level EDS that has the current development. So again, that's tabbed browsing, like tabbed search results, or just looking at EDS and just looking at library results. If you'd want to have that in your OPAC stations right now, or in your internal in-library use profile, because we already have 2 enterprise profiles for each library, one that's intended for sort of broad general use, and one that's intended for in-library use. So if it were only on your in-library use profile, the authentication of like put in your password wouldn't be an issue, because we could work with everyone to make sure IP authentication was working. We're not sure if that would be more confusing for patrons or a nice preview of what's to come, so we just kind of want to bring it up and see where you stand on it. If you, yes?
Would there be issues if, because typically, at least for us, our OPACs are way more locked down than our computers. So if it comes to downloading a full text article, if you can view it, that's great, but it's not going to be, we're not going to be able to download it on any of our OPACs. So.
Yeah, I mean, that could be an issue. You may choose to whitelist some additional sites to allow more interaction, but that is definitely a consideration. You can, in certain results, I'm not sure if this is one, when it's an HTML full text instead of PDF full text, it displays only in this detail view. There's a little drawer here that says full text, and you click it, and then you just see the HTML full text. No images or anything, just like the plain text. So that would definitely work, but yes, I think it would depend on your setup what would happen if you clicked this button. Would it allow you to open this content window or not? And then once you were at this window, I mean, they could print it, I'm sure, potentially, without having to physically save it on the computer, but would they be able to save it to a flash drive? That's up to you guys in your settings. Yes?
Do we all have to opt into this, or is it library by library?
It could be library by library. I mean, it's all based on the enterprise profile. So if 5 libraries said, yes, we absolutely want to do this, we could work to make that happen. Again, I don't know. I mean, I don't see any reason why it couldn't just be library by library.
For the 4.3, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, for like the internal only right now.
Will 4.5 look than this?
It will look different. The screens are going to change, and the ability to have the interfiling comes. So this is why we initially stopped to say we're going to wait on EDS as far as 4.3, wait for 4.5 to come out. So that's why we delayed that, and then we're also working on this patron authentication piece as well as a solution for patrons at home to be able to connect to these resources and make it very easy for them without having all these multiple login sessions being presented.
It's
So
summer. Let's wait.
When we
this could be library by library, but we're just saying EDS to a certain extent is ready for a library. Let's say we could say, we'll have an enterprise profile for you to use. Maybe you don't want to share it on your public computers, but it'll be a URL that your staff can use and start playing around with it and practicing with it to get a sense of what it is and what it does. And you could absolutely do that as sort of the warm-up to the 4.5 version.
Yeah, the actual like search engine, the results that your EDS search will produce, as far as I know, is not really changing. It's the way your search results are displayed and the way that they interact with your library results. So originally last year, when we were working on the migration, 4.5 was slated for release in May. So we said, all right, we'll go live in April. We'll get EDS set up in May. We'll roll it out to libraries in June. And then that timeline of development with Cersei Dynex changed. So now we're looking more at like September, October, and we just wanted to present some additional options. And like Erin said, if library staff, even in-house, just want to learn more about it, we can help get it set up.
I think it's a great
Yeah, we can call it a different thing, especially in our search results. Articles, we like articles.
Anyway, but yeah, I would love my staff to be able to check it out without having the public checking it out at exactly the same time.
Yeah, we have that ability with the enterprise, being able to have profiles, and we could say there could be a profile that's like for testing and development if we're wanting to try out new things. And it would be just, it could be used in-house, but let's just say if it's a URL you give to a patron, they could still reach it, if that makes sense.
With the customizing, are you gonna be able to just limit it, like if we just wanna do like novel lists and the book reviews and all that, can we do that once this comes up? Or is it gonna be everything we have that's EBSCO and then whatever else we choose?
I'd have to check with EBSCO. Right now, it's set up everything you have with EBSCO, with the exception of some things that are just sort of incompatible, like auto repair reference center. Yeah, I mean it's.
See, that's a perfect thing.
Yeah.
Because you look for car repair and then the children's doesn't come up. How are they gonna? I mean, if that's the point of it, yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have some like smart linking options that we can continue to look into, but currently it's everything that's compatible that EBSCO has. I can check with them. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be
I think
customizable.
we were just chatting yesterday about picking and choosing some to begin with and seeing how it went, because, there's 35,000 things that came up there, and that's kind of overwhelming. I mean, I've never liked the idea of federated searching, but I'm an oldie and I know that, but it still is overwhelming. And patrons don't understand the facets right now, and then you're gonna add all that other stuff. So,
Okay.
but I would like them to know we have some of this stuff, so it's, it's, okay.
I'll just mention too, I like what Susan is saying, and our patrons do find the screen confusing right now, so as I was looking at the integrated one and thinking then, all right, now I'm gonna try this for library only, and I actually like the tabs better because it's obvious at the top, like, well, if you want this or this, whatever, but it's just the primary stuff comes up, and if you wanna go further, you can go further, kind of thing, but that's been a real issue for our patrons. And the thing of it is, it's all this clicking, and the whole
There's
point
a lot of
of searching
clicking.
these days is not all clicking. So I don't think I just think the whole user experience, we're going off in an interesting direction that is not the way the rest of the world is going.
There's too many options?
Too many options and too much going on for people, yeah.
There's a lot on that screen. It's almost like, oh my gosh, it's very intimidating.
So that's just feedback from what we're hearing
Yeah.
already in our libraries.
A lot happening.
Yes.
That is good feedback.
But it would be great to practice with the EDS and staff only.
Okay, staff only. Yeah, we can send out some sort of request setup and go from there. There's Harriet Tubman still on the screen. What's up there?
I think we're near the end here.
I think so. Are there any other specific questions about EDS? No? All right. Nope.
I think we're good. All right, I'm pretty sure we're at the end here. We did the demo. We did questions. Classes are coming up. As I shared at the committee of the whole meeting, there was a lot of interest in having groups get together, and we already have standing user groups. So the technology users group is slated for June 17th. That's sort of the IT technology folks getting together. We've scheduled July 23rd for circulation users. We haven't sent out SWAN comms announcing these yet. I just wanted to share with you dates that are coming up that we're earmarking. So it's like circulation users. That's not circulation advisory. That's going to be circulation staff at all levels if we want to participate at the user group. We are looking at having a joint cataloging users group. So this would be a joint meeting for users that are from the catalog users group, acquisitions users group, and serials user group. So we're looking at arranging a day where there could be 3 separate sessions. So if someone wants to participate in all 3, they could come in and come to all 3 in one day, or if they say, I'm only coming for the acquisitions part, I'm going to skip the cataloging part, they can come into that. We have some dates in mind for August. We just hadn't finalized them enough to announce here. We are planning some training on something, we're starting to call it just Symphony Guts. It's to really get into how it works from the standpoint that I think there's a lot of libraries that are sending in requests to us, and we recognize that we got you up and running, and now that you sort of have been using it, staff need to have a real firmer understanding of what the underlying structure is and how it works as far as I-types and the hold map and the circulation map works. So we do have dates for that we're going to announce. So we're looking at 4 sessions that staff can sign up for. You don't have to go to all 4. You just go to the one. And then we'll also conduct one at the end as a webinar for those that can't participate in any of those sessions in person. So we're looking at that as well as some next round of training. Any questions about that? Jamie?
Can I just say that when you guys do set a date, if you would go ahead and pop it out on SwanCom as soon as possible?
Yeah.
It's really difficult with staff schedules when they only know 2 weeks in advance or so.
No, yeah, and that's why we're also making sure that when we book it in L2 that we're going to get word out as soon as we can to allow staff to register. So for this one, that's why we thought it's pretty important. We felt based on what we were seeing as far as tickets coming in that we thought if people started to get a better understanding of how it all worked, it'll be like, oh, okay, I get it now. We were all kind of semi-experts, in Millennium, so we're just getting used to Symphony as it is right now and understanding how it flows and works together. Yes, question?
And I hate to say this just because I know you're already working on it, but if you could have something in September, because I know I'm going to go back and tell my staff in July and August, and all of my youth services staff is going to freak out because it's summer reading, and they
go on
can't.
vacation.
I hear you as far as summer reading and such and vacations. We're trying to get things out to you as fast as possible, so you see it's again a balancing act where it's like, wait, I gotta wait till September? Oh, broody. But that's part of it.
But if you can do something after summer reading, that would be.
Okay. Some of these maybe could be repeated at another day too. Keep in mind that for the webinars we record it. So they could be viewed again at another time. So we've done that for like the search webinar we did. We recorded that as well. So if you missed it and you want to see it, you can play catch up on that. I saw a question in the back. Yes?
I think it would be nice, we all are basically on the same schedules. Like a webinar. If you wanted us to watch the webinar and you wanted it in July and August, if you had like a set of schedules of things that everybody should be doing this because this is where it's going, that would really help. We don't have to be there in person. A lot of us don't really want to travel this far. And so if you could do everything as far as online first, that would be fabulous.
Well, we're balancing needs as far as people learn different ways. They like to be in the room, ask questions, networking amongst their peers. If it's not clear, we've fully adopted doing online training, instruction, and recording. So there's something there for everyone. If we don't have the order right, it's more that we're aware of the fact that things may come up that we'll use in the final presentation that's recorded that we've learned from other sessions. That's sort of the strategy. We are streaming and recording every quarterly meeting. We took the step of actually doing that for the last committee of the whole meeting as well. That was streamed and recorded. I wanted to touch on this because I think this maybe addresses some questions that we heard today as far as development and opportunities for feedback. Something that we really had not heard from the other vendors when we were making our selection for our next ILS is Cersei Dynix presented that they have this available to all their customers, which is called a strategic partner program. And it allows customers to start getting involved in the development process and providing feedback into things that they're working on. This is like pre-beta. This is while they're working on the next release of something, and that we'll be able to be involved and suggest, oh, this functionality should be here, this button should be labeled this button should be located here. You completely forgot about this area of the cataloging or circulation Blue Cloud client. So we're going to talk more about this at the September meeting in terms of these are the programs that they have presently. Sometimes they start up a new one, and sometimes they end one. And there are some requirements for participating in these. I'll share more detail about this, what this means. I think this is something that SWAN libraries have always been eager to be involved with within the vendor. So I want to let you know that outside of all the things Rebecca had outlined as far as the enhancement process, the consultants that we have that are able to work, the in-house customization that we can do within the framework of the software we have, we're also going to have the ability to be involved even at another level of development. So keep that in mind, is that it doesn't stop and the old frustrations that we had are like, oh, we only get so far and we can't cross the moat. They're putting down the drawbridge and letting us in and say, take a look around and we're going to show you what we're working on. What do you think of where we're headed with this? So mobile circ is listed there. Analytics is listed there. The cataloging and Blue Cloud circulation. And do I see enterprise on here? Maybe not. But that being said, they start up new ones and end some, depending on where they're at in a development cycle. I shared this last meeting. This was a ranking that we asked libraries staff at all levels to rank these 10 things as far as software features. I like coming back to this because this at least allows me to see where we're at within rolling out these types of features, these types of things. This list was made before we even knew what vendor we were going with. This was very early in that selection process. So I like to see that we're getting there as far as notifications, building the reliability as far as we had those initial problems with enterprise, but it's like been pretty rock solid. And that with Blue Cloud, I think we'll start to see that staff and patron screens should start to become a little bit more similar is what we're going to see. That when you do a search in the staff client, you're going to get cover art. You're going to get maybe search results that are based on the same index as patrons. Right now they're separate. And hopefully we'll have a client for Mac. I thought it was worth noting at least that we are coming up on the 40th anniversary of SWAN. We're pretty much right here. June 18th, also went live on the system that eventually became SWAN. And these other libraries went live a few months later. So June 18th is really the sort of the birth of it all. And Ann Kozak helped put together this history of SWAN. There's a button on the SWAN website that says history. If you come to the home page, you'll see it on the left. And it runs a whole presentation on the history of SWAN. So I think when the new board sits down and we're talking about some of the things that we're going to be doing over the next 3 years of our plan, we'll also need to talk about the fact that we are at our 40th anniversary and how we want to promote that. That's it. So went after a little bit afternoon, but you asked a ton of great questions, and we had a lot to show you today. I hope you're excited at 50 days out that we have so many things that are going on, and we're incorporating your feedback within that cycle. So thank you all.